I'm glad you talked about meetings. We've seen series of meetings even between INEC and the politicians, between the security agencies and the politicians. Still, we see what we just saw. So, is it just that they are overwhelmed, or such meetings are just rituals that are not taken into account of what these circumstances would mean when such violence erupts?
No, sincerity is also very important. I can tell you from the reports I got from people in Rivers State. I didn't go there, of course. I couldn't have gone there because of the level of violence. Before elections, you had this violence, both from the courts, people from the election-related issues. You had more than 20 persons that died before the elections. And during the elections, the report said that at least 10 persons would have died during the elections-related violence. We said a copper died. We understand there are some. I understand also that a lawyer also died in the same election, on the same election day. So, first is, and then there were heavy shootings also by the military and by many others and by the court guys. So, first is, let there be sincerity of purpose by both the managers, the security agencies. Let there be that security. Let them not see it as a do or die affair. Then let there be planning. See, you see, whether you like it or not, the guns or the ammunitions in the hands of people who are not security officials are not that much, and they know where they are. If, for instance, we decide that we're going to work on this and decide those people that are dead, let's find out the bullets that killed them from where. And that is commission of inquiry.
And that's where forensic can help us.
Yes, and if we do that, we should go take the next step to prosecute those people. And once you do that, tomorrow, if you are doing something, you know, in Nigeria, in many areas, people do things with impunity because nothing will happen. When you start, they'll use money to suppress whatever. And the level of violence is from both sides of the divide. So we should be able to apply the laws the way they are. And once we have that political courage to do that, I think we should be on our way to recovery from the system.
Do you think the security agencies are overwhelmed?
They shouldn't be overwhelmed, because these people have minor weapons and we have well-equipped army, at least to that extent of dealing with the situation. We even have enough ammunition with the police to arrest that situation.
How do you know that? I mean, if just before the election started, we understand that a major and a soldier were killed during patrol, what will build that kind of confidence in people that, these people are well equipped to do that?
Killing a major and another soldier is the same thing we have been seeing since 1999. Remember the OD crisis? Remember the one from Benue too, Katsina area. I mean, sometimes security men can be waylaid, and they can be killed. What do you do when such things happen? You launch an investigation. You can actually get the culprits. It can be court wars, which I understand is increasing in that area, because the people of Rivers State, I believe that the combatants should come together and say, this is our state. Shall we destroy this state? Nobody will be a beneficiary of the destruction of Rivers State. No Riverian, no person from that area, no Nigerian will be happy that Rivers State is destroyed. So I think they should come back to say, what do we do? The court crisis, how do we arrest it? The political issues, how do we arrest it? How do we move forward as a state? How do we really love the people we think we are representing?
One of the sound bites we played just before we came to you, the guest we had yesterday, Professor Omahi, asked, Omaji, beg your pardon, asked, where are the mediators? In this kind of situation, who are the people you think can mediate to ensure that both sides actually come together?
Now, we have trained mediators, conciliators. They're everywhere. Both lawyers, it's professionally trained to do this. Nigerians know them. We can get them from the institutes. We have some religious leaders who are also trained mediators. We have people who you can take, for instance, if you get to the combatants, they belong to different religious, so many of them are Christians, for instance, though from different denominations. If, for instance, you ask maybe if some of them are Catholics and some are Anglicans and some are Methodist people, and you go to their bishops and say, please nominate people for me for mediation. And they nominate people, and you get some lawyers.
Who is this person that's going to go to those people? That's the first question. Somebody must take the initiative. Who do you think should be taking the initiative right now?
We have the National Orientation Agency. It's there. We have also the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. We have various governmental
You think that those parties will be considered neutral enough to do it?
No, it depends on the way you are going. I have just mentioned one of the ways to go to, if you want really the truth. If, for instance, National Orientation Agency, yes, it's a federal agency, comes up to say, I want peace. He goes to the bishop of the governor or to his religious leader and say, nominate somebody for me. You see, in arbitration, some of us that did arbitration and mediation, we understand that confidence can be built, because if you are in conflict with me and you have to nominate somebody into the board to mediate, and I have to nominate somebody, you see, there is a measure of confidence both of us are going to have in that body. And maybe the people we nominated can nominate a chairman. And the chairman will not be somebody you do not like, and will not be somebody I do not like too. There is a measure of confidence. The first point is that both of us must agree that there is the need to save the lives of others.
And then, go ahead. Just wondering quickly though, so what do you think of INEC's stance in this election? So if we're to go with this rider that says no further results will be announced until reports from field officials and monitors. That's according to INEC. INEC is saying no more announcements and no more elections or anything involving elections until peace returns to Rivers State. What do you make of INEC's stance?
You see, INEC has more information than myself. Now, if the results have been announced, for instance, by the various collation units and by the various returning officers, it means the National INEC cannot validly and legally say they cannot release those results.
No, that's INEC in Rivers State.
Who is a returning officer? The Rivers electoral officer is not the returning officer for elections that happened in a particular local government. There is a returning officer.
Yes.
The point I'm making is that if a returning officer has collated his results, remember that there are various stages of announcement of results. First is at the polling unit. The next one is at the area. The next one is at the ward level. You get to the local government level. If, for instance, the the electoral officer or the returning officer, sometimes they appoint somebody as the returning officer for the local government. So if a returning officer has announced results for that area, or in a local government sometimes there will be 2 state constituencies. So if the returning officer for the state constituency has announced the result, the resident electoral commissioner cannot at that stage say, I will no longer release those results.
No, they've announced 9 local governments, and the resident electoral commissioner says those results stand. But for the ones yet to be announced, there will be no more announcement until peace returns to the state. Do you think that gives an incentive to the parties to come to the peace table?
No, understand the area I'm talking about. First is to find out, the 9 results were the ones that the states had collated and announced as the states. That is not the stage of announcing those results. What I'm saying is, if in those local governments the results have been officially announced to the people as the electoral law provides, the electoral law provides that each returning officer for an election should announce results for that election.
And it should even be pasted.
And they should be pasted. If those procedures have taken place,
then the elections have been won and lost.
The elections have been won and lost. That is one. Now, but for peace to reign, like you said, the issue of peace cannot be traded on the altar of legality. You have to also look at the legal aspect of it to avoid further, litigation.
One quick one before we wrap up, because questions about the impression people have of INEC needs to be asked, and there are more questions that people are raising as they conduct every election they conduct, especially now that they're becoming inconclusive. And many will then ask, look, shouldn't we be looking inwards, or shouldn't the chairman of INEC be talking to the press and to the country? Why is it that most of these elections are inconclusive? Why are there more questions about INEC officials? And now you heard the last one of which they took her to the police station. Look, all of this, it's a build-up, and we have a governorship election coming up this year. Should we be worried?
Yes, I think we should be worried. That's where I started from, that there need to be planning. There need to be not only planning,
But they plan?
Yes, they are planning, but what type of planning? And they need to come out, like you said, the chairman coming out to talk to the people. What are the levels of your plan? How are you engaging the stakeholders? How are you engaging the electorate? What do the electorates expect from you? What will be the role of the security agencies? Which areas have you plotted? What plans do you have to stop areas where, if for instance I am warned today, say that this area there will be violence, and I know that beforehand, and on that day there will be violence here and the election is disrupted, would I have done my work well?
Well, we'll anchor at that point, and thank you very much indeed. Chukwuma Ezeala is a legal practitioner, also observes elections for the African Bar Association. We will be back in a minute. Don't go away.